Hello YouTube, I am Galadite74 bringing you guys another top 10 video. Feels like ever since UPBA stopped and I stopped uploading consistently, I've been uploading almost solely top 10 videos, but well, good news, Scarlet and Violet is dropping in 8 days as of the recording of this, and I know content will be changing once that comes around, so it won't be just top 10 videos. I am trying to stay spoil free, so hopefully we can get there in time. Today's video is my top 10 battles of my Draft League career in Generation 8. So this doesn't include any Gen 7 or 6 battles, just this generation, which was a pretty successful generation for me personally. I enjoyed this quite a bit, made a lot of new friends, and hopefully we can continue this trend into Gen 9. I want to thank you guys for your support so far. I'm sorry I kind of slept on this series a little bit. Frankly, I only planned on uploading 4 videos, and it's going to turn out I'm going to upload 3, which is pretty close to what I was going to do anyway. I am going to also be uploading an update video sometime between now and when SV drops. Not sure when, but that will be happening soon. Finally, for this list, it is a top 10. I do have 3 honorable mentions, and I'm not going to be putting nearly as much graphical energy into these honorable mentions just because that's what they are. I'm not sure how I'm formatting this, but I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna show you guys the results and then show you highlights from the games. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video a lot. Leaving a like is pretty poggers, and without further ado, let's get into this list. This is gonna be a long video, so hopefully you guys are relaxed, and I will try and breeze through some of these early top 10 battles. So we're going to talk about 3 of our honorable mentions. The first honorable mention I have is me versus Dies-A-Lot in the Draft League World Cup. And this was a wild card game, I think. It was one of the first, if not the first playoff game I played for this league. And frankly, I was feeling pretty good at this point just because I was on a pretty big winning streak. And this game was kind of a test because I've never fought this person before. And frankly, they were pretty nice and everything. And basically, in short, I was down in this game quite a bit. I had a game plan that wasn't it was play to a T, actually, straight up. My whole game plan revolved around a Grimmsnarl bulking up, and although I like to build in a way where I don't have to solely rely on one win con, with the way the game was going, and with the way I had prepped, and with this Aegislash he had brought, it made it to where I had to win with this absolutely necessary set. And luckily, with a few good plays, I was able to get around my opponent, and I made just literally 8 turns in a row, the perfect plays just to get out of a situation and win the game and come back. So I was really excited about that at the time, and that gets an honorable mention on this list here. Another honorable mention is me versus Love. Now, this happened pretty early in the generation, frankly. This was actually 2.5 years ago at this point. And this was in the first APM season that I did in the generation. And this team I wasn't a big fan of, frankly. But me and Love had a pretty good rivalry in Gen 7, in later Gen 7. And he got the better end of me basically every time. And he beat me in APM Finals last gen. He beat me in the regular season. So this was our first matchup this generation. And even though I did end up losing this game, it was very close, and I felt like I was really in it for once, despite the fact that I didn't really like my team. And I did get a little bit unlucky. I did miss a Leaf Storm in this game that really set me back quite a bit. Cinderace just tore my team apart no matter what I did. But overall, a really fun game with someone that I always enjoy fighting. Haven't really talked to Love in a long time now, frankly, but I do miss that rivalry quite a bit. And it was just a nice continuation from what happened in Gen 7. And finally, our last honorable mention is me versus Owen in BBL, just because that was pretty funny. So those are the honorable mentions here, and now I'm going to spend a little bit more time going into the top 10. A final note is that two of these battles are with an asterisk. You guys will know what I'm talking about when I get there. So here we go, into the top 10. Into number 10 we go, and this is going to be a pretty exciting one right off the bat. This is UPA Season 2 Finals versus Jack, coach of the Vancouver Titans. Now, this is, frankly, spoiler, the only Jack battle on here, which is surprising considering I have fought Jack at least 10 times this generation. So he's easily the person I fought the most. But this battle does stand out the most to me. Frankly, this battle actually would be a lot higher if it wasn't for how this game ended. Now, just to put it out there right away, I got pretty lucky in the end game here. I probably did not deserve to win this game. So that's why I have it a little bit lower. Not saying there's like no hacks games at all in here. It's just this one was like a case of that. The reason I like this game so much was just because of how intricate the game plan was and the backstory behind it. We have fought Jack a lot already, so this is actually our first time meeting in a finals game. So that was really exciting. The stakes were a lot higher than they normally were. Jack is a very talented coach, so going up against him, even though I typically get the better end of him here, he has a good team. Again, he's a very, very good opponent, and he definitely had the potential to beat me in this game. So again, stakes were a lot higher. My team, while I didn't enjoy this team as much as the other UPA team I had, I had won UPA Season 1, so going into this back-to-back championship we're talking about here, so that was, again, just raising the stakes, which really made me enjoy this battle quite a bit. Finally, there were a lot of sets that I had brought to this game that were really intricate and like specific, and I feel like almost all of those sets worked out. For example, I brought Resto, Chesto, Gudra, and I was able to use that at some point to my advantage, and I felt like that really helped me in this game. I brought a Stone Edge Dual Wing Beat Earthquake Taunt Aerodactyl, which really helped. All those moves were very helpful. I brought Pixie Plate Primarina just to spam Move Blast, and I did that, and I also had Aqua Jet, which made a difference in this game. So like every little thing I threw on this build, I felt like really came through in this game. For a good portion of this match, it was very back and forth as well. I felt like there was no clear like who has the advantage or disadvantage in this game, which makes it all the more exciting to watch. My opponent's Keldeo did so much work in this game. He brought, I'm pretty sure, like Shuckaberry on Excadrill and Kebia on Clef just to deal with my late game Clefable. To deal with my late game Scolipede, my bad. So it really changed that as well. It made me have to change endgames quite a bit. In the end, I did get like an 18% roll or something like that. It was like a 12% roll I got. Frankly, if I had made a different play, I could have guaranteed myself a win, but I almost choked the end game. But I got rewarded through some hacks, so that bumps it down a little bit. But otherwise, this game was very, very exciting, and I always love facing Jack, and just having him facing in a finals, it finally happened. I was pretty happy with it. So that is number 10 on the list here. Number 9 is going to be me versus West in UPBA Season 2 Week 10. That's like, just a random game in a random season, right? But this game was actually really exciting. Frankly, a lot of UPBA Season 2 games were just up there on my list. I didn't throw all of them on here, frankly, but I'm pretty sure there's a few more on this list that were a part of that season. Now, why did I enjoy this game so much? Well, this is the first time I had fought West, so pretty exciting. I never fought this person before. I had a game plan as well that I felt pretty comfortable in. It was just breaking with Grimmsnarl, and I had a few other win conditions like Lycanroc as well. I brought Xatu to this game, even though I don't really like Xatu, frankly. And I mentioned that Grimmsnarl is a pretty important piece to this game, specifically to break down an Umbreon. Well, West, the genius, he brought Choice Banded Gourgeist and knocked out my Grimmsnarl turn, I think, like 2. And right there, I'm just like, I lose to Umbreon. So we had a pretty back and forth little like stall for a little bit because I believe he had Tentacruel, Umbreon, Zapdos, pretty bulky core. I have Ferrothorn, Piloswine, so that's also relatively bulky. I believe there was, I was knocking off. Was there screens? Did I bring screens? I couldn't Leech Seed a Tentacruel because of Liquid Ooze, which I think it turns out he didn't even have Liquid Ooze. He was Yawn Umbreon, all this stuff to drag out a battle, and I'm down, so I'm not sure how I'm going to come back into this game. That being said, there was a turn in this game where he makes a switch into Guard, as I think like Gyro Ball or Tentacruel just to get damage, or I do something, and I end up chunking the Guard's health, which really takes the offensive pressure from West's team out of it, which really helped me sort of climb back into this game. I had 2 physical breakers that luckily I kept around for the end game that really helped me break through the Umbreon in the late game. Still, frankly, not the most sure how I ended up winning this game. Piloswine popped off quite a bit too, but I did really enjoy this a lot, and it was a really fun watch as well. Watching Wes's perspective, it's been a bit since I've seen it, but I do remember thoroughly enjoying this game in and out. So shouts to him. And that was number 9 on the list. Number 8 is going to be a showdown game. This is me versus Haunch in APM Ubers Week 7. Now, this is frankly right around the time where I took a small break from uploading Draft, despite the fact that I was still playing a little bit. And this was the Ubers League, obviously. And my opponent had an Arceus Electric, a Zamazenta, and a Mega Aggron. And a Sylveon. The big thing is the Sylveon here, frankly, because my team wasn't really that good against Mega Aggron. My team wasn't really built well for it. And Sylveon, while Sylveon itself was like a non-threat, that wishing into Mega Aggron was very scary. So that's kind of where this whole game plan revolves around, is not letting that Mega Aggron, just stay healthy, and also making sure I don't lose to my opponent's Ubers, because they are very strong. I do a good job scouting out the Arceus pretty early and knowing what moves it's running and what it's not running. I don't do a great job dealing with the Aggron initially, just because it does end up being a curse set, I'm pretty sure. Just skipping around a little bit. And my Seismitoad is physical, so I wasn't doing a really good job there. There was also another big turn in this game where I sacked my Ho-Oh off to a Mega Aggron Rock Slide. I went in Circuitry, I went for Volt Switch, assuming that the Aggron was def, but it was defensive, so I could have knocked it out with T-Bolt, and I switched in my Ho-Oh on a Rock Slide, and it died. And that set me back just because by turn 26, it's 6-3, and even though Mega Aggron's at 16% health, I have no way to actually really touch it. So the moment that Sylveon gets a Wish Up, I can almost not punish it at all. Luckily, I do still have one win con. As long as I can get that Mega Aggron to stay that health, my Latios can potentially win. But it's just really tough with a Sylveon and a Choice Band and Zamazenta. Luckily for me, I do manage to play this super well with a Clefable with Wish Passing as well. And I was able to get enough Rock Chip to put certain mons in range of a boosted Latios move, and somehow Latios managed to bring this game back with the help of Wish, and I was able to win this game. It was very, very exciting. This is one of those games where you truly think you had lost, but just anything to come back, and I managed to just pull it out of my ass, frankly. But that is number 8. Again, really exciting battle as well. All of these are exciting battles. We're going to move on to number 7. And number 7 is going to be me versus Fox in Draft League World Cup. Another Draft League World Cup game. Frankly, this was another showdown game, and I think the second most recent game I've played that's on this list. Or third most recent. It's pretty recent. This game happened a few months ago. Anyway, another Aegislash game in this league, surprisingly. But this game was just a good old back and forth game in a league that I wasn't doing too great in. I was feeling a little demotivated, but it was still relatively early into the season, so I wasn't too worried about it. This was one of the few teams of mine that I ever built that got messed up by Hawlucha. So in turn, it also got messed up by Mega Gallade, which Fox had. But frankly, my game plan was to lead off with a Selgor and get as much value as I can. Turns out that didn't really happen, so I'm not a big fan of suicide leads like that. So it didn't really work out in this case. However, luckily I am able to get rid of the Aegislash early, which we saw earlier in the Honorable Mentions game, that Aegislash gave my team a bit of problems. So that was pretty good. The only threat was just kind of getting rid of the Milo and making sure the Gallade and Typhlosion couldn't get in for free. However, getting into the later portions of the game, which I somehow managed to keep myself alive in this game, just keeping his offensive threats at bay, was the Weavile. Weavile was a bigger threat to my team than I had respected it. Fox did a really good job at weakening my Mega Blastoise throughout this game. I was kind of forced into a position where I had to do that just to stay alive and deal with the Typhlosion. So it came down to, in the end, Weavile versus my Mega Blastoise at 30% and my Choice Scarf Lando. Now, I'll explain the situation for you. You guys are going to see it on screen. I ended up killing the Mega Gallade as my Choice Scarf Lando with Earthquake. So Weavile comes in. My Mega Blastoise is at 30%. There is a 20% chance. No, there's like a 40-60 chance that a knockoff into an Ice Shard can kill my Blastoise. However, I wasn't gonna risk that if I could just kill it with Earthquake with Lando. The thing is, I don't believe Earthquake had like a small chance to kill, but Weavile had to use Ice Shard, and Weavile's Ice Shard had a small chance to kill my Lando as well. I don't remember the exact thing, but basically I switch out on the Blastoise, right, thinking I can get an Intimidate drop, guaranteed live the Ice Shard from Weavile, and just knock it out with Earthquake, because it was a pretty high chance. But he Swords Dances on my Lando, and my Blastoise dies to knockoff because he's +2. And I end up losing the game because he's now, +1 with the Intimidate drop. It was a very, very exciting ending. I probably got those numbers wrong, frankly. If I get them wrong, I'm going to put them up on screen. They were pretty crazy, but Fox just made just the one play that I didn't even think about. And he got rewarded for it, and he deserved that, honestly. It was a pretty hacks-free game, too, which made it pretty exciting. And even though that put me on the back burner in this league a bit, it was one of the losses I took in this league that I didn't really mind. Some of the other losses were really dumb in some fashions. Like, I know I got like a 2% chance to die to a move in one game, and I died, which was really stupid. But this game, very clean, very fun game, and it's number 7 on this list. Number 6 is going to be me versus Trog in UPBA Season 2, Week 2. Another UPBA Season 2 game. This one was really, really exciting. For a little bit of backstory, Trog made a video. It was a really weird video. It was pretty funny, though, kind of calling me out for something. It was just like a stupid little admin joke we were making. But, so that added a little bit of hype to this game. This is my first time kind of like really, really getting to prep for this team just because I had a 6-0 week 1. Sorry, Shay. And this team was built in a way that made me very comfortable. So I had fun. However, Trog had an Urshifu. My fairy type is Grimmsnarl. So, A, non-Urshifu check. B and C, there's Regieleki and a Slowking, meaning Regieleki, I had to bring my ground type, which is also weak to Urshifu. And my endgame, which was Thundurus, is Choice Specs, cannot really break through the team unless Slowking is really chipped down or really pressured. So I had to deal with all these obstacles going into prep and going into this game. And that doesn't even include his other 3 mons, which were also really annoying. My goal was to break with Dracovish, just try my hardest to do that. That did not happen in this game. Dracovish did really like nothing in this game. At least early in the season, I was having a hard time positioning Dracovish to where I could get some value out of it. So that kind of made it a challenge there. I know I had a Choppleberry on Ferrothorn to deal with the Urshifu, but I'm pretty sure Thwackey broke that with Drain Punch at some point. So that didn't work out. So it seems like nothing's going right. However, Thundurus, I had to work a little bit of overtime. Thundurus in the mid-game kind of made it to where I could get some pickoffs on his team. And I had to position my Thundurus late game to make sure I could live an Urshifu hit. So the terms behind that was making sure rocks were off the field, which Pelipper did. I did that on a switch. I had Reflect on Grimmsnarl, and just Reflect for this specific scenario, and I ended up getting that up at some point. And there was also another point in that game where Piloswine lived a Hyper Beam from a Choice Specs Regieleki at around half health. Now, frankly, I'm looking back at it, I'm not sure how much that mattered, but it does add to the I have one less sack, and he gets the momentum by bringing in Urshifu for free type of deal. So that was also really scary at some point. Thundurus in the end did end up cleaning up just because I was able to get rid of the Slowking, and Choice Spec Sludge Bomb kind of nuked his team at that point. And it didn't one-shot at Urshifu, but Urshifu couldn't like just stay in, especially if it was locked in the CC. So, very, very exciting game. It was our first time, I believe, fighting, despite the fact that he has been in PTL like a few seasons prior, and we just never fought. And if we did, I'm forgetting right now. So, that is number 6 on the list, and we're going to move on to number 5. Number 5 is the first with an asterisk on it. Number 5 is versus Cahoots. And this is all of our games, combined sort of. We have fought 4 times so far. UPA Season 1, UPA Season 2, and then the Prep City BDSP League, which we fought twice in. Now, all of our games have been very close, all 4. And that's what makes this really, really exciting, is that every time we fight, we have a good game. Our first game ever, he had Gmax and Teleon, insanely broken Gmax. And my team, luckily, I had some answers for it, but even having answers for Gmax and Teleon doesn't mean you're not going to lose to it. He also had a few other mons that I don't quite remember, frankly, just because how threatening Gmax and Teleon was. There was a Kamo and a Heatran that were pretty scary as well. I brought AV Throw to this game. I had a Nasty Plot Salicberry Rotom Wash that I did end up fumbling near the late game with the set. If I had played that set and played a little bit more risky, aka tried to live a second Heatran Flamethrower, I think Rotom could have just won on the spot. But I didn't play like that, and it made it a lot closer. I did keep my Ferrothorn healthy, so I was able to live, and it came down to the nitty gritty. I'm pretty sure Kahoot had like 3 seconds on his timer. I had 18 seconds. The battle was really long, but it was just exciting throughout the entire way through. That's just one of them, though. In our second season of UPA, I did end up losing to him in a kind of sand versus rain type of deal. I didn't really have like a sand-ish team, but I did bring aspects of it here, while he had Pelipper and Barraskewda. And Barraskewda just kind of wrecked my team, frankly, and that's what ended up happening. I did bring some cool little niche stuff in this game, like Rising Voltage Rotom did do stuff. There was a turn in that game where he had Hurricaned my Noivern, or I U-turned, and he risked taking a Hurricane from my very offensive Noivern, which would have insanely switched how that game would have went. But he stayed in, and he got rewarded for it, and it ended up like really helping him out in that game. I could never recover, and he played really well. And then in the BDSP League, we fought back-to-back. The final game of the regular season, and more importantly, the first game of the playoffs. I did end up beating him in both, though they were very scary, because frankly, I thought Kahoots had the best team in that Prep City League. He had just so many threats for it being, just the first 4 generations, and it being a free draft. His core was, he had like Dragonite, Heatran, and something else that was really strong with it. I don't quite frankly remember those games as much, just because the VODs are lost to history. But we did end up winning, just again going back to back, and after our very successful season. I don't like facing people in rematches, so and Kahoots gave me a battle in those games, I remember. But we did end up pulling through, and Kahoots is just a really fun opponent. Every single time we fight, it's fun. And I really hope in Gen 9 we're able to face Kahoots again, because, again, just really fun games with him. That's number 5, and we're going to move on to number 4. So now we're at number 4, and numbers 2 through 4 are like kind of a bigger jump from the rest of the list, and number 1 is just all the way up there. This game is a really good one, and I'm really excited to start talking about like these games specifically. If you take anything away from this video, is that the top 4 battles are just truly battles that I'm going to remember for a long time. This is versus Q in BBL Season 7 Finals. Now, similar to number 10 on this list, there was a lot of stakes in this game, and that's what really added to a lot of the hype of this game here. This is our first time facing Q. We had dodged each other in 4 different leagues, so we just could not face each other, and he's a homie of mine, so, we were talking like, hey, we're going to fight at some point, right? And we meet in the finals of BBL, how poetic. I ended up having arguably one of the best seasons I've ever had in draft, like in my entire draft career. This is probably number 1, just because of how the season went. I got first place, I had kill leader, I had an insane team, like everything was aligning right. And Q was second place, and he was not far behind. He was right there with us as well. And his team was very scary, and I had to do a lot of preparation for this game. Frankly, it's a little, whatever, but I did watch a few of Q's games just to get a grasp of how he plays. And I kind of learned a bit, but in short, I had prepped in a way just to kind of combat Q's playstyle as well as the team I was prepping for. Usually, I don't prep for a person's playstyle unless they're notorious for it, like Amel, for example. But Q, this is like one of those examples where I'm like, I have to prep for Q. So I did that. I had my classic endgame of Calm Mind Coco, which I always stand by. I think is the best Coco set. But this one had Grass Knot and not Roost. I needed Grass Knot for a Rhyperior. I had Specs Lunala. This was the time Lunala was going to pop off. I did a few mocks for this and changed a few things around, which helped me in the game. My early game went perfect. I got my T-Spikes up as I wanted. I'm pretty sure that's how I wanted to do it. I got a lot of information out of Q early on, and it just came down to not losing to Magearna and Garantina O. I have a Mana Buzz for Garantina O, but Magearna is very good against that. I have a Melmetal, but Magearna can make a set that can break through a Melmetal, so it was very, very scary in that sense. And he had a fat Suicune for some defensive backbone, so that was also pretty scary. So the battle goes on. It's pretty even as per usual, as a lot of these really good battles go. I had to just play in a way where I didn't lose to Amon and also keep my Coco for a win con, because at that point I was suspecting that Magearna was Assault Vest and that was at some points in this game, so Koko couldn't really do much until I chipped it down. So that's how that went. There was a point in this game where I had a Mandibuzz in versus Giratina, and I did U-turn a bit, and I got some really crucial chip with Mandibuzz on the Giratina, which luckily for me, I believe was physical in this game, so Foul Play was doing extra damage, and that really helped out quite a bit. And Koko did find an opportunity to come in and clean up. Lunala, I was saving Heat Wave. I was Choice Specs, but I saved Heat Wave in the back all the way for some of the final moments in this game, and that was omega helpful in making sure Koko could clean up. We do end up winning, and winning this title was really good just because I felt like I performed insanely well throughout the entire season. Yeah, I did get lucky throughout some portions, but I feel like this was kind of like symbolistic of how the season went, and not only that, it was just a really good battle versus someone I've been looking forward to battling for a very long time. I'm pretty sure we have fought Q a few more times since then, but this was like the standout battle in my eyes with him, and it's number 4 on this list. We're gonna move on to number 3 here, and this is the other one with an asterisk on it. This is my entire PTL Civil War / Season 4 playoff run. I couldn't really choose, frankly, which battle, because there wasn't one singular battle in this playoff run that really stood out to me. It was just the whole thing. Now, this was the first league I won in Generation 8, and that's a big accomplishment in itself, but this was also the second biggest league I was ever a part of. There was, I think, 40 people in total, if not a little bit less. It was right around 40 people, and we ended up winning the whole goddamn thing, which is, big thing. The playoff run was pretty long. There was 4 games, and all 4 games were pretty exciting. The first game, I fought a Pseudo Sun team and a Gyarados that was really scary and a Melmetal. We managed to pull through because Cinderace pulled some heroics out of its ass. Gremlin, it was a rematch versus Gremlin, and I got pretty bodied pretty hard in the regular season, which I didn't even mention. I had a really strong start to the season, and then I went on like a 3-game losing streak, and then the last few games were kind of whatever, so I didn't really even go into the playoffs with like a hot streak or anything. But the first game was really strong performance from my team. The second game, I brought a specific set for a Salazzle, and I bodied the Salazzle, and because of that, I was able to just maintain the advantage throughout the rest of the game. Maintaining weather control with Vanilluxe was also pretty important. The semifinals game, which is probably the best one here, was versus Zombie. Now, me and Zombie go back and forth in some of our games, and this one was a really good one. I brought Espeon to this game, and I'm not a big fan of Espeon. I truly believe Zombie had like the matchup advantage here, just because Primarina was good against my team. Special Decidueye, which is I'm pretty sure what he ended up bringing, is good against me. Diggersby, if he clicks the correct button. Like, a whole lot of things could have went wrong. But luckily, I'm pretty sure Cinderace did a lot of work in this game, as well as Golisopod. Golisopod was like the MVP of this entire playoff run. It came to all 4 games, if I recall correctly, and every game it put on a show. It cleaned up versus Gremlin, versus David Ryan. It did something in that game, if it came to that game, right? Okay, so yeah, I am fact-checking, and yeah, Golisopod did get a pick-off kill on Gyarados, which I desperately needed in that first game. And then the finals was versus Mid, and that was a very quick game compared to the other ones. It was a very offensive game. He had a Bisharp and a Mew that was very scary, especially, Mid with Mew is a threat, and Bisharp was really good versus my team. Kind of like my BBL finals game, I played very similar play style. I had to get T-Spikes up as soon as I can, and I kind of took inspiration from my PTL game into my BBL game, which is actually kind of crazy. So that was that. I also burnt an Araquanid Will-O-Wisp. I baited out basically the Bisharp, and I flamethrowed it on a switch in, which was really sick, and I was able to get rid of it without it really doing anything to my team, which was very awesome. And then at that point, I just had to make sure I didn't lose to Mew, which with the T-Spike up was possible. And then it was just a sack race, which I ended up winning with the Cinderace plus the Rotom that did a lot in this game. So the whole run was very good. I felt like I was almost at my best playing draft at this point, which was just weird considering how the end of that season went. So a really cool playoff run. I couldn't just pick one game off of it, so it's just the whole run itself. That is number 3 on this list. So we're getting up to our silver medalist now. who is number 2? Well, I'll tell you guys. It's my second most recent game, period, and in the most recent league I played. It's versus Razorclaw in NCP SummerSlam. Now, unfortunately for you guys, I only have the Showdown VOD because despite the fact that this was played on Wi-Fi, we did DC at one point, so we had to recreate it on Showdown. Now, what makes this game so good? Well, A, it's versus Razorclaw, and me and Razorclaw have very similar play styles, so I thought that clashes really well. B, this is the 15th time, basically, I fought a Garchomp in this league, so I was really over it, but also kind of prepared for it at the same time. And C, my opponent has an Eldegoss. Eldegoss is one of the best mons in Gen 8 if you're talking to me personally. But, unironically, Eldegoss was one of the biggest threats to my team here because my win condition was between Zygarde and Tapu Fini. The only mon that could take on both of them was Eldegoss, and he had brought it. So that was a big threat to my team. I didn't really play well in the early game because I sacked my Mesprit to basically nothing, which was really not good for me. And I didn't really play the early game at all that well. I do make some crazy plays. I do like Parting Shot on Garchomp at one point. That was pretty cool. I use my Bandit Scizor pretty aggressively and get that chip down. So the good news is I'm setting myself up to where if I can get rid of Eldegoss, I am actually in a good spot. The issue is because my win conditions aren't built to take on Eldegoss, that is going to make it a tough time because my other mons who are good against it are either weakened or not good against the rest of the team. So when you look at all of that, it does make this matchup very tough. And also another mon that was low-key a threat near the end game was my opponent's Scizor. Kind of same deal. I kind of wrote off Scizor as a threat just because I felt like my Fini plus Zygarde could deal with it. But then we go back to the Scizor Eldegoss core. So we're thinking, how am I going to win this game? Because Scizor is there's a point in this game where Scizor is positioned to just win. Or if it just doesn't win, it can always switch into Eldegoss and never get punished. So I ended up, my thought was, I could coil sub in front of Eldegoss because I know a Energy Ball doesn't break my sub. Well, Razorclaw is very smart. He brought Grass Knot, and I didn't even think of Grass Knot, which breaks a sub. So I can no longer break through Eldegoss. I don't have a move to hit it. There's a lot of points in this game where I had to save stacks off just because I had Scizor at 13% at one point. I had Mesprit at 2%. Fini at 17%. My entire team was low. So I had to rely on Zygarde, and I ended up having Nihilego as well, which is a pretty important aspect to this. Now, this goes on for a bit, the Switch game. While mind you, he also has a Weezing and a Rotom in the back. Now, frankly, my team isn't weak to those mons, but those are sacks that he does have. There is a really big turn in this game where I do end up getting the kill. I get the chip Weezing down, and I get that kill, which is pretty cool. I have to use Zygarde defensively, which I'm not a big fan of. I just never make a play on the Eldegoss. However, I do get a huge Sludge Bomb on the Eldegoss, and I knock it out at one point. Without that turn, I didn't frankly need it to kill, but I needed to get the damage on it, which, because he gave that to me, it opened up room for Zygarde to win at this point, which was really, really good. Last second, I put speed on Zygarde for Rotom just in case he was bringing offensive, because I had a small suspicion he would do that. He roosts up on Scizor at one point, which is really strong on a sack, but I do end up cooling up, and it's down to not rolls, but just small percentages of HP across the board. And I am able to get rid of the Scizor. He's not Scarf Rotom, which probably would have beat me at that point. And it was just down to the wire through a DC while I was streaming this all live. So it was just, a lot of stress, a lot going on into it. We do end up going on to win NCP SummerSlam, which was really exciting. So this win was definitely the hardest one we had to work for. Razorclaw did not make it easy, and he played really well. We just had a really good comeback in the end. So that is number 2, very exciting battle. And we're going to get into what is easily, not even a question for me, my favorite battle of this generation. Okay, so we're moving on to number 1, and this game, as I just said, is just clearly the best game I've had this generation. And this is UPA Season 1 Finals. This is me versus JV. And to give you guys a little bit of backstory, I have a few things to tell you guys. But first off, this was the get back into draft type of league I had. This was my first Wi-Fi league in Generation 8. and frankly, I wasn't really feeling draft up to this point, so I wanted to give this a little bit of a go. And there was another UPA Season 1 game already on this list, so you guys kind of already knew how I was pretty pumped up with this team, and it was a GMAX league. And this league had a lot of backstory to it, because I had never fought Jay, and we had fought him week 1 in this league, and we did end up beating him, even though he was kicking my ass for about 80% of that game. Frostlass came through, and so we added that. That adds a little bit more to it. Jay had an insane season as well as I did as well. I believe I went like 10-2 or something like that, and the playoff run was pretty dominant as well. So that was pretty exciting. I'll talk about the game a little bit more, but I do have a little bit of a special guest here.
But yeah, pretty much Migs covered everything. It was like we had that season 1 and it was like very close, and then we had an opportunity where like we both had a lot of, UPA was a homie league, and like both of our homies like were like, oh, I don't know who to help, and then we had certain people help us and all this other stuff just to meet up in the finals, which is kind of like poetic. And like remember going into that game, I was stressing about funny enough, like he had a Stonejourner, and I was like, there's no way he brings it. I don't think he brings it. But like it was very scary for the 6 I was bringing. And then sure enough, the big brain Migs brings a Stonejourner, and it actually put in work. And it was just, overall, it was a fun game. Of course, I was sad because it was finals, but also didn't know at the time that Migs would be such a homie. But Migs is like awesome dude, just an awesome dude. Can't give him enough. So King, that's all I gotta say.
I appreciate that. I was gonna mention that, like, I brought Stonejourner. Obviously, you guys can my T on screen with editing, depending. I was scared of screens Jolteon because you had brought that to both your playoff games before that, so I was like, I'm just gonna use the screens. And then there's the Rillaboom G-Max. I know I had Charizard, but the rest of my team kind of was like, doesn't like that, so that was scary. And but the game's really cool. Again, there was a few other things I did, like I brought Protect on Dragalge to kind of stall out G-Max, and there's a few other niche things you guys might see on screen as well. And the one big thing I want to talk about here is this was kind of like the start of my journey through Prep City. As you guys know, I talk about Prep City a lot, and you know, the homies. Definitely my favorite server I think I've ever joined, and it really started like a good kind of community that I've ended up joining was because of this league, and this game was kind of like the catalyst of that. So that was really awesome, and finally it fits the trifecta of having all 3 Triple Tech members on this list. Spoilers for Jay, but yeah, very, very exciting stuff. It really kind of set off like a whole community thing for me in this draft league community, which really made my love for draft kind of come back again. That's kind of all I have to say about that. Anything you have to say about this game, Jay?
No, I'm just glad like it led to a friendship. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, that's like the big takeaway from this. But yeah, thank you, Jay, for stopping in for this. That was really awesome of you. I'm gonna put your links down in the description. Go check out Jay. And so that's going to be it for this video. Again, thank you, Jay, for stopping in real quick for this special outro and the ending of this video, because that battle really kind of set a lot for me. There was a lot for that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I would much appreciate a like. Once again, there will be an update video coming out very soon. I hope you guys check out. It's pretty important. And then finally, I'll give you guys a little question so I can get some engagement in the comments. What's your favorite battle from your Generation 8 games? I would love to hear about it. If you have like a Showdown link or a YouTube link, I wouldn't mind putting that there either. It gives me some content to watch at some point, and I would love to hear from your guys' experiences as well. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching so much. I appreciate you guys' support, and I'll talk to you guys soon.